Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, everyone, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. As you can see, we are not in the East Dulwich Tavern this week. Actually, not our fault. None of us have COVID or on holiday. As you can see, the East Dulwich Tavern had a function on, so we couldn't film there, unfortunately. But the good news is Henry Hill and Michael McCubbin are here as ever. Henry, how are you doing on this Thursday afternoon?
Yeah, good. You know, I've been pretty unwell this week, truth be told.
Oh,
however,
sorry to hear that.
It's okay, it's all right. However, I think life just caught up with me a little bit. I was saying that Real Madrid would beat PSG over two legs, and it came true. I'm happy for that. And also, I just had lunch in my garden for like the first time this year. So nice. the hope that this long, enduring winter is over is real. So yeah, no, it's nice. I've got more things to be positive than negative about in total. And I think being English, normally I tend to focus on the negatives a bit more. So yeah, I'm just trying to keep my head up, as it were.
I love it. Yeah, spring has sprung and PSG are at the Champions League. Some things never change. McCubbs, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad, thanks. Not too bad. Obviously, we'll get into it, I think, won't we? But yeah, classic night of Champions League football. So that was nice. Went and filmed a video off-site this week, out of London, with Zach and Sam Abasaki, which was really fun. Haven't done that in a long time, about 2 years now. So that was really fun. That's for like an awkward FIFA, which will probably be coming out in the next couple of months, I imagine. Nice. So it's been a good week of kind of football related things.
Nice trip to Wales, love it. Right, let's get into today's show. The question comes in from Dom Sullivan 18, and weirdly, it was weirdly close to what we wanted to talk about anyway. But he says, how much has PSG's defeat damage Pochettino's reputation? This is obviously the hot topic. We are filming this on Thursday afternoon. Last night, PSG crashed out of the Champions League. They conceded 3 goals from Karim Benzema from 2-0 up in the tie to lose 3-2 on aggregate. All of those 3 goals coming after the 61st minute as well. This is now the 4th time in 6 years that PSG have crashed out at the last 16 stage, and probably goes up alongside at least the Man United defeat as their most embarrassing sort of Champions League humiliation of all time. Obviously that Barcelona comeback probably takes top spot. So today we want to analyse what we thought of the game, what it means for Pochettino, and whether Man United should have second thoughts about potentially hiring him this summer. McCubbs, let's kick off with the game, because that second half was absolutely breathless. I think there's always 1 or 2 games every year in the Champions League that the year is always remembered by as a whole, and it feels like that might well be the game.
Yeah, I mean, those 15 minutes basically, isn't it? PSG looked really comfortable. I actually think over the course of the 2 legs, up until 62 minutes, that PSG looked more comfortable than I've seen them in a long time in a Champions League tie, especially against a team as experienced as Real Madrid. But yeah, I mean, that Donnarumma mistake just completely opened the floodgates, didn't it? Obviously, Benzema ended up tucking home from the kind of mayhem that ensued from that. Then, Modric was allowed just kind of to run straight through the midfield. For the second goal, he was superb during that whole move, started it and finished it essentially. And then Marquinhos gave the ball away for the third. Just that there was no kind of leadership within that back line or midfield for the final half an hour of the game, was there really? Everyone was being pulled out of position, passes going astray. That Real attack suddenly just came alive, didn't it? They just looked like rabbits in the headlights, really. Obviously, Camavinga coming on, I think, did really revitalise the Real midfield. I think before that they looked a bit slow. I think he really added a bit more kind of dynamism and energy to the middle of the park. So I think that was a really good move from Ancelotti to bring him on. But aside from that, it's difficult to lay the blame at Pochettino's door here, isn't there? Because it was a kind of freak half an hour or freak 15 minutes. I think Benzema, did he break the record for a hat-trick, which had only been set by Robert Lewandowski the night before? I think that might have happened. I think it might have been like a 17-minute hat trick, and I think Robert Lewandowski's were like 21 minutes.
I think Batafemi Gomez has the record. I remember seeing this yesterday. Yeah. I think Lewandowski's was the second quickest.
Okay.
So I think Benzema's now might be second.
Was Gomez's in the knockout stage as well?
Maybe that's it.
I think it might be a knockout stage thing, but either way, just ridiculous, isn't it? And it's not. I mean, it's not a classic Benzema hat trick by any stretch of the imagination, isn't it? Like, it's only really the final goal that was of real quality in terms of what he's capable of. But yeah, I mean, they made a fairly Real Madrid are not as good a team man for man as PSG, are they? And PSG just allowed them to completely bulldoze them in that second half. And I think it's hard to lay the blame with Pochettino for that, because his game plan was essentially working. The attackers had kind of done their job. Mbappe in particular, that they had made the most of Real's weaknesses at the back, and they should have. That defense should be able to defend a 2-0 lead, and it just wasn't able to. So yeah, I mean, it's hugely disappointing. But in relation to the question, which we're obviously going to discuss at more length, I don't think this defeat in particular damages Pochettino's reputation, but I do think his reputation in general, especially among English football fans, has gone down, has been slightly damaged, I think, just by the fact that PSG are not like the best team in the world this year. Because I think that's what people were kind of expecting when Poch was hard last January, and then when Messi arrived in the summer, it kind of felt like, yeah, they have to be favourites for the Champions League now. And they're out at the last 16, of course, but even before that, they weren't blowing teams away every single game. And also, they don't necessarily look as kind of dynamic and dangerous as Pochettino's Tottenham did at their best either. I think that's where the issue lies, right? Is that I think Pochettino has lost a bit of his aura in general. And I think, in some ways, a defeat like last night kind of exacerbates that, at least at the surface level. But I think there's a bigger picture at play rather than just this kind of embarrassment in the Champions League. Because we've seen it before with PSG, haven't we? I don't know whether I feel like it goes a little bit deeper than just the manager who's in charge.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we have seen it before, but it did feel like PSG were slowly getting their act together in the Champions League. They made the final in 2020. They made the semi-finals last year. And before a capitulation against Man City, which we'll probably come on to in due course, PSG have improved significantly in the Champions League. And I thought they were really good for the majority of this tie, just with a nightmare 30 minutes. And I mean, Mbappe scored just an excellent goal in this game. Also had 2 more ruled out for offside as well, and was generally just phenomenal throughout the whole game. And considering that he picked up an injury on Monday and he was a doubt even for the tie, to perform like that on a Wednesday is just quite frankly ridiculous. I mean, Henry, you were pre-tie, even at the halfway stage, even on ERU on Monday, as you said at the top of the show, backing Real Madrid. Was that more of the sort of intangibles that you can't really talk about through statistics, as we always like to do on Football Daily, of sort of mentality, leadership lacking in this PSG side?
Yeah, absolutely. I think something that makes that Real Madrid victory even more impressive is if you talk about some of the names that were on the pitch at the time. We saw Rodrigo, Camavinga there at the end, what was it, like Nacho in defence. Just a lot of guys that we don't maybe associate with that kind of Champions League machine that was winning titles year after year. They've blooded in a whole new generation of young players. We've seen Vinicius step up. He's sort of one of the best in the world at the moment right now. And I think that's what made that victory even more impressive from a Real Madrid perspective. But yes, you're completely right. It's just, I think the pundits were saying it on the TV. The second they seem to get in any kind of pressure, and the second a team really seems to take it to them, they really struggle. And we've seen that over and over again in Ligue 1 this season. I think it is a problem when they're so accustomed to winning on a weekly basis that when they do enter these pressure cooker moments, that I'm not sure they quite know how to react, and they don't necessarily have. Well, I mean, it's hard to say if they don't. I mean, players like Verratti, they've been around a very long time. Neymar, he's capable of stepping up what needs to be. So it is quite confusing. But in terms of Pochettino and this club, for me, it's just a completely wrong fit. I think Pochettino, I'm not going to say he is a good man. I mean that I don't mean that in a derogatory sense of the word. I think what he did with Spurs to sort of elevate that squad, instill belief, that sense of unity, that was remarkable. Even before that at Espanyol, that's another really strong community-led club with an identity in the shadow of Barcelona. And I just think, although, yes, he played for PSG, yes, he was part of their history at some point in time, it's not for him at the moment. It's really not for him. It's a completely different animal. Even if half the rumours are true about the way they were reacting after the game, in terms of sort of pressurising the ref and talks of Nasser Al-Khelaifi and Leonardo being furious in the dressing room, I just don't think it's really a fit necessarily with the way that Pochettino works. And certainly, like the players at his disposal as well, there's a lot of attitudes, a lot of egos in that squad. So you always run into these kind of scenarios when sort of Galactico-style assembled big teams. It takes a certain kind of manager to make that tick. Ancelotti being one of them, Zidane quite clearly being another. And I think perhaps that is probably the direction they're going to go in at a later date. I mean, even like losing to Nice in the Cup, losing to Nice again recently, it defeats Nantes. I think we saw Lens really take it to them earlier in the season, sort of such an open defence. Just they have looked a little bit lost this term, and I think that has translated into this Champions League tie where, I mean, how you can go from being 2-0 up with effectively half an hour left of a double leg tie to losing 3-0. I don't care if they think there's a foul on Donnarumma. That's not the point. That is like the most feeble excuse. Like, it shouldn't happen. Like, there should be enough knowledge and know-how in that squad to see that out. There are so many blunders and mistakes, and that isn't necessarily Pochettino's fault. That really isn't. Could he have maybe made a substitution to try and sort of restore some calm? Who knows? But I think they're a team that are perhaps just a bit too scarred by their experience in Europe, and I'm not sure that's down to Pochettino to fix.
Yeah, I think you're so right to bring up the mistakes. They are sort of inexplicable. I mean, we know Donnarumma is not the best with the ball at his feet. Most Milan fans on my timeline have been praising Mike Maignan for completely changing their style of play and with his distribution, etc. this season. So much better than Donnarumma, who is an excellent shot stopper, who has also been in and out of the team left, right, centre. Doesn't seem to know whether he's starting week in, week out. Then for the third goal, well, the third goal, even the setup from the kickoff was really weird. Idrissa Gueye was far too high. Rodrigo comes in, nicks the ball. Marquinhos, rather than clearing the ball, tries to play it out from the back, gets intercepted by Benzema and finishes there. And then the second goal as well. Modric, who's 36, completely running past Verratti with so much ease. Neymar trying his best to get back, who probably worked the hardest off the ball last night, I've got to say, Neymar, of that front three. And then suddenly the game is done. And to concede 2 goals in 2 minutes is really, Sunday League level rather than a team that's expected to win the Champions League. It just shouldn't happen on any level. And yeah, they recruited these big names last year, but they also added a lot of egos, as Henry points out, into a dressing room that was known to be pretty fractious already, that Tuchel said was at points sort of unmanageable in terms of the club atmosphere and the dressing room as well. So I'm not totally surprised, but PSG, there's obviously some issues there going forward. A lot of their squad is actually surprisingly old. 9 of the 20 oldest 11s played in Ligue 1 this year are from PSG. 8 of their 15 most used players in the league this year are over 30, including 4 of their 11 most used. And their Champions League stats are remarkably average, I've got to say. And they were bailed out in the group stages by Mbappe, who can continue to put together another excellent group stage, and Messi, who actually has delivered his best form in that Champions League group stage. But as a team, get a load of these stats. They rank 7th for goals in the Champions League, 18th for shots per game. PSG, who have assembled that much talent, 18th for shots per game, 10th for possession, which is even quite surprising, 27th for shots against per game, and 26th for tackles per game, and bottom for interceptions. So obviously those last 2 tackles and interceptions are linked to how much possession you have of the ball, but it does go to show the general sort of laissez-faire attitude that most PSG players have to working as a team. And when the going gets tough, do you back PSG players to bind together and get through a sticky 10-15 minute patch? You just don't. You never do. McCubs, that brings us on to, we've sort of pulled apart PSG's performance against Real Madrid, or done it as best as we can, but it brings us on to United. Yep. United have been the results haven't been dreadful under Ralph Rangnick. Too many draws, probably. It hasn't been a total disaster, but United's position on and off the pitch in terms of the way that the squad is getting along with each other at the moment, all these leaks coming out of the dressing room, it is a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
Would you want to see Pochettino go in there? Do you think he is good enough for that job? And should we just maybe take all his, back history at PSG with a bit of a pinch of salt and look at the squad and the issues that have been there before he even arrived? So is he good enough for Man United is mainly my question.
Yeah, I mean, I think the PSG stuff is a bit worrying for sure. In terms of him having struggled to really, make the club in his image over the last 12, 13 months. That obviously is a bit of a worry when you're looking at Man United, who are a club that are in need of a real kind of reboot culturally. And I think this is the thing which has changed at United in particular over the last year, is that, last summer the talk was really just about kind of structurally decide on the field and how it was going to improve in terms of being able to actually control games and actually score goals after sustained sequences of pressure, etc. Controlling the midfield, basically, fixing that problem that's been there for the last 10 years. That was kind of the be all and end all of United's kind of problems. And you 7-8 months down the line, and it's clear that there is a real cultural problem at United in terms of the squad and everything. I mean, there's obviously cultural problems at United going all the way up to boardroom level and have been for a number of years. But in terms of the actual playing staff, this does seem quite worrying, and obviously it's hard to know what's real and what's fake, what's being fed to the media, and obviously the English media are always going to jump on kind of any kind of narrative surrounding Man United because it sells papers. But nevertheless, these things are out there, and that is a problem at the club because it's clear that for too long that players have probably had too much power within that whole structure, essentially. And I think that's probably a hangover from the Mourinho days in some ways. I think there was a lot of resentment within the dressing room there. I think Solskjaer probably was able to temper it a bit, but from kind of essentially being a nice guy, but probably didn't get enough kind of systems in place to kind of really get a hold on players. And yeah, it's clear that Rangnick doesn't have a huge amount of control over what players are doing kind of outside of training hours. So that is a problem, and I think that is where you'd perhaps worry with Poch, because he did take on this job of managing a dressing room full of egos, and I think that was always going to be a worry before that. I think when we were talking about what Poch's next move was going to be back in like 2020, I think the issue with PSG was always that, wasn't it? We haven't seen him. We haven't seen him manage, a load of superstars. That was always going to be a worry. But I think there was always a sense that, well, if the job's available, he'll take it because it's a huge job, and he had the opportunity, or has the opportunity to build an amazing legacy at this club, which is such of European glory. So I think that is a bit of a worry. Nevertheless, he's still one of the two best managers who will likely be available this summer. So in that sense, yeah, I think you have to back him. I don't think I'm as hot on him as I was 6 months ago for the United job. And there's a lot of kind of pro Eric Ten Hag kind of stuff within the kind of Man United fan base. I think partly because he is a little bit more, or he's known a little bit more to be an authority figure, to really kick players into shape.
And his side has just been so good this year as well.
For sure, and that's kind of he's kind of flavour of the month in that sense.
For sure, yeah.
But I do think his character is a bit more. I feel like Pochettino's a bit more of a kind of nurturing character, and Ten Hag obviously does nurture players, but he does seem to be a bit more hard line, maybe slightly more of an Arteta kind of figure in terms of getting players in shape and whatnot. We see how he was able to turn someone like Ziyech into a star, or was able to manage him, and I know he's a player that Thomas Tuchel has had some trouble with over the last year. But essentially, there's still two excellent options, and I think either of them would be the best permanent managerial appointment United have made since Ferguson. I don't think there's any getting away from that. There's still two managers who are at the peak of their powers. Pochettino still plays, is still one of the finest tacticians in world football. But it just hasn't really worked at PSG. Would he struggle at Man United? Yeah, but I don't think anyone wouldn't struggle at Man United at this moment in time. If I'm honest, there's a big job to be had in the summer. There's a top class centre forward and a top class central midfielder desperately needed. Potentially a right back too. After what has been years of overspending in those areas already. So United's problems are United's problems. They're always there, it seems. Is Pochettino one of the outstanding options? Yes, essentially. Whether he can win a title with United I don't know, but he is still one of the best managers out there.
For sure. I feel like United would be very lucky to get either of them, to be honest, given their current predicament and where they've been over the last few years, and the way that they just don't really get any better, no matter what they're spending at the moment. I don't know whether that's down to coaching. I think a lot of it's down to players increasingly as well. They spent an enormous amount of money. They've got by far the biggest net spend in Europe over the last 10 years and haven't really won a title in that time, except for that first year under Fergie in 2013. So haven't won a title since 2017 as well, any title. So the problems are clearly there for United. And yeah, I kind of agree with you. I don't think Pochettino's reputation should be completely tarnished by a difficult spell at a difficult club to manage. I mean, look at the stats at Spurs. Third, second, third and fourth between 15-16 and 18-19. They spent a net £26.6 million in that period. Their spending over the last 10 completed seasons is 16th in Europe. Obviously, that's not the entirety of Pochettino's reign, but the majority of that spending came after he departed under Mourinho and Nuno and recently Conte as well. They've spent £200 million less than Arsenal in the last 10 years. And Pochettino got them playing the best football with that team of Ali, Eriksen, Kane, Son, Dembele, Vertonghen and Alderweireld. The names roll off the tongue. They were one of the Premier League's best sides and one of the most watchable teams in the Premier League, crucially as well. So I'm definitely on the bandwagon of Pochettino is not a bad manager. It's just been a difficult spell. I wish he'd kind of gone to Juventus, to be totally honest. Henry, quickly before we go on to big match predictions, are you with us? Would you have a preference between Pochettino and Ten Hag? Would you rule Pochettino out of the running? What are your thoughts?
No, I wouldn't rule him out, but I'd go for Ten Hag. McCubb's made a really good point about sort of the culture at Manchester United, and they need to figure out what they are at the moment. And while there are a number of egos that, as you say, there's no smoke without fire when it comes to all of this. Things leaking in the press. I think there clearly is something going on behind the scenes. I think it's really pressing. I remember what Mourinho said about how leading United to second place was one of the greatest achievements of his career. I think that's kind of, I know I love Mourinho, but I think that is true. I think what he did with that side there is something behind the scenes which doesn't seem quite right, and I'm not sure Pochettino at the moment is the man to go do that. I wish he just went back to Spurs. Conte doesn't want to be there. I almost wish those two just switched around. Conte do a good job at United, in my opinion. And I think Pochettino, I just wish he was back at Spurs doing that thing. I can't believe they sort of ditched him after one difficult campaign. But yeah, for me, I'll go for Ten Hag. He's got that I think McCubbs once said he's the German manager of Dutch football in his sort of stylistic approach. I think his dream job's the Bayern job, but if you can't get that, why not go to United? Because at least he's going to have funds to be able to do what he wants to do. And especially if Ajax go deep in the Champions League once again this season, which looks like they've got a strong possibility of doing so, then his reputation is going to be massive going in there, even though it is in the Eredivisie, which typically maybe less appreciated than the other big five leagues. But yeah, for me, I go for Ten Hag, and there'll be plenty of jobs for Pochettino though. He can get a job wherever, Sevilla, Spurs, that kind of level in my opinion. But at the moment, yeah, I go for Ten Hag.
Yeah, for sure. If you're going to go for Ten Hag or Pochettino, please give them a few years and a few difficult spells as well. Like, you can't keep this merry-go-round of managers going. It's just not sustainable. Pick your man and back him because they are the best manager at the time for your club. And yeah, believe in them. Guys, those are our thoughts on Pochettino and whether he is actually good enough to take over at United and the Real Madrid PSG fallout. Let us know your thoughts on that topic in the comments down below. And let's move on to our big match predictions. Okay, so it's time for everyone's favourite segment. Well, it's definitely mine anyway. It's big match predictions. Going into last week, Henry was on 28, I was on 27, and McCubs was on 17. The first match we talked about was Bayern Munich versus Leverkusen. McCubs went a little bit crazy. He went 3-3. Henry went 2-2. I went 2-1 to Bayern. They each get a point. It actually ended 1-1. I was surprised by that. Milan versus Napoli. McCubs went 2-1 to Napoli. Henry went 2-0 to Napoli. I went 1-0 to Milan, and it was 1-0 to Milan. Very chuffed about that. 3 points to me, none to the other two. Real Betis versus Atletico Madrid. I went 2-1 to Atleti. McCubs won 1-0 Atleti. Henry went for a 1-1 draw. Ended up being 3-1 Atleti, a scoreline that slightly flattered them. So a point to McCubs and myself. So the scores on the doors are as follows. I am now on 31, our new supreme leader. Henry is on 29 and McCubs is on 19. So work to do for McCubs, but still tied at the top. Let's kick off with Hoffenheim versus Bayern Munich, which is Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Fourth versus first, 16 points currently between them. Henry, Hoffenheim have slightly snuck up into a pretty good position. They are going about their business slightly under the radar this season.
They have, but Bayern have also delivered one of the biggest beatdowns in Champions League. Well done Salzburg for your first leg. Have that. Anyway, I'm sure
it was brutal.
Mikey will talk about that in a second. But yeah, Hoffenheim, you know what? Consistently up there, aren't they, in the Bundesliga? Really impressive club. And certainly at the moment, once again under Sebastian Hoeneß, they've won 4 straight games, scoring 7, conceding just 2 to took them into the 4th spot. And I think that race for the 4th spot in Germany is wide open at the moment. I think there's a few clubs, Freiburg, Union Berlin as well. There's a few of them really sniffing around that 4th spot. So it's going to be fascinating to see, because that'll be huge for whoever can get in. I think Hoffenheim got into the Champions League qualifiers a few years ago, but lost to Liverpool, if I remember correctly, which is a bit of a rough draw. They've only lost 3 of their last 14 games. They've got some good players as well. Ilash Babu, he's got 7 goals, 2 assists. The top scorer, Kramaric, big fan of him on Euro Football Daily. He's had another good season. I mean, 4 goals isn't great, but 7 assists in 23 games. He's so important. I saw Pat Van Straten the other day. I think he was saying about he should go to Arsenal. Or I think his contract situation's up soon. He's just certainly being looked at by a big side, because even if it's like a backup striker, he's a quality operator. And their left back as well, David Raum, 2 goals, 7 assists. So yeah, I mean, I think this is an interesting match. I think I said recently, it's just so hard to predict with Bayern Munich what they're going to do. Leverkusen did well last week. I'm going to stop going for 2-2. This is it's clearly not working for me, that scoreline. So I'm going to rest the 2-2 draw for now. But yeah, for this one, I'm going to back Bayern again. I'm going to go 2-1 Bayern. But I think Hoffenheim are looking decent.
Fair enough. I like that shout of Kramaric to Arsenal. I would have particularly liked it sort of 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, because he must be approaching 30 now, which isn't the end of the world if he's going to be your backup striker. But yeah, it feels like that slightly unfortunate spell at Leicester is really a bit like Florian Thauvin. He's never really got another chance in the Premier League, at least. McCubs, let's move on to Bayern Munich, because we have talked about their form being slightly iffy, as Henry sort of hinted at there. But they were spectacular on Tuesday night against RB Salzburg, who admittedly did give them a massive head start.
Yeah, what's his name? Is it Maximilian Wob, is it?
Wobber, yeah.
Wobber, that's it, Wobber. Oh my God,
Wobble.
I've never seen such a terrible centre-back display in such a crucial game. 2 really unnecessary challenges. Oh yeah, I had to feel for him, to be fair, but it was just like brain fart moment, wasn't it? Like like going in for an impossible challenge on Lewandowski in the centre of the area. And then he was a bit unfortunate with the second one, because it was very marginal as to whether it was a penalty or a free kick, but still, not great. But yeah, I mean, they showed what they could do, didn't they? Like, obviously, that they've been without some key players recently, in particular in goal, in the midfield as well. I mean, they started with, like, Kimmich was the only defensive player who wasn't in the back three in that lineup.
Their lineup was extraordinary.
It was like a 3-1-5. Was it 3-1-5-1? Does that even make sense?
3-1-4-1. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
I mean, Musiala was starting in a deeper position, but he's not. He's not. He's not a CDM, is he? It was just super entertaining as well. Obviously Lewandowski got that hat trick, but Thomas Müller was so supreme, wasn't he, in the final third? It was just classic Bayern, really. Lewandowski's now hit 40 goals plus for 7 consecutive seasons.
What?
Bayern have now scored over 5 goals 9 times this season. It's pretty mad. And I was speaking to, I was actually watching the game, the Real Madrid game with Zach and Sonny last night, and I think we were discussing Lewandowski a bit, and I think just in general, I think it's finally time for everyone to admit that Lewandowski is like one of the best strikers of all time, like top 10. Like, he's in there, isn't he? Like, could even be top 5 by the end of his career, to be honest. He's just head and shoulders above only number 9 in world football in my eyes right now.
Even Benzema.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. Yeah, Benzema. I think on the basis of the last 3 seasons, I think you can argue that Benzema is close, but I just think
the consistency, maybe not.
I just think over the last 5-6, it's hard to argue with Lewandowski, just how prolific he's been.
I'm just going to say this.
Forward. I think what Benzema has done for Real Madrid has arguably been in some ways more impressive, but as a centre forward, Lewandowski, come on.
I just think if you put Benzema in that Bayern team, I think his goal scoring record would be close. I think it would be close to what Lewandowski's done. I really do. I think, but although it's a bit silly comparing them, because they do offer very different things. They play different roles. Although they're both number 9s, they both sort of do different things at respective clubs. But I do think if Benzema played in that Bayern side, I think he'd be hitting the 30-35 goal mark every year. But that's maybe a debate for another day.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe
I think Benzema's the better all-round player, but I'd say Lewandowski's the better 9, if that makes sense. Would be my 2 pence.
Well, let's get that penciled in. Let's get that penciled in for another week. We'll properly come armed with some arguments for that. But nevertheless, Lewandowski's just having another great season, and I reckon he's probably going to beat his record again from last year. It's just ridiculous. I can't see this. I do like Hoffenheim. You mentioned David Raum there, another great assist on the weekend, pinpoint ball, kind of Alexander Arnold-esque. Against Cologne, so he's been one of the pickups of the year, but I just think Bayern have too much for Hoffenheim, and Hoffenheim aren't they're not necessarily that defensive side. I think I'll go for 3-1 to Bayern.
3-1 to Bayern. Yeah, it's difficult to say.
Is it Henry? That's not what you went for as well, was it?
No, he went 2-1. He went 2-1. He went 3-1. I'm going to say it's going to rain in some goals. I think it's going to be 4-0 Bayern. Yeah, why not? Yeah, I thought they were excellent against Salzburg. I just think Thomas Müller is probably the most underrated player of his generation. I don't ever see him being talked about as one of the best players in the world, but he just is. And I know he's slightly ungainly and maybe not the most attractive player to watch, if that makes sense, but he's just so efficient. I just think he makes the right decisions at the right time. He's an excellent finisher. He's so intelligent. He works exceptionally hard. Yeah, Thomas Müller, most underrated player of his generation. There, I've said it.
Nice.
Right, let's move on to game number 2. Lyon versus Rennes, Sunday 4:05 p.m. What a random time to kick off. Big fan of that French football. 9th versus 4th. They're currently separated by 5 points. Macabre's Lyon, Lyon, not just a weird season for them, really, given their talent as well.
Yeah, for sure. Their form has picked up a lot recently. I feel like they could work their way into that kind of top 6 by the end of the season. But yeah, defensively they've just been so poor, haven't they? One of the worst defences in France. But 5 wins and a draw from their last 8 games, only 2 defeats in that time. That's as many games as they'd won in their previous 15. So there is some sign of progress there. They're already 6 points now off third place. So, they're still in the hunt for even a Champions League place as well. However, they haven't come up against the best opposition in the last kind of 10 games. I think only 3 teams they've played have been above them in the table. So, you'd have to take that with a pinch of salt. There are some big games coming up before the end of the season, but they beat Porto in the Europa League thanks to a Lucas Paqueta goal. So they're doing decently in Europe too, and Paqueta has been one of their main guys, hasn't he? He's been superb this season. Seeing reports last week linking him with PSG and oddly Arsenal, but I think I don't know what it is with the papers linking like Arsenal with like kind of creative behind the striker midfielders. It doesn't really make sense to me, but certainly he would be an interesting option for PSG to explore, especially with Angel Di Maria's contract up in the summer. I don't know whether he's not exactly a replacement for him, but he does play in the similar kind of areas. Also Moussa Dembele, I think you got to shout him out for being so good on returning this year. I think his kind of final year in Lyon before taking that trip to Atleti, I know injuries were a big problem, but in general he was probably going through some of the worst form of his career, or the worst form of his career before that happened, and to come back and be so prolific this year, I think he needs to get his flowers in that sense. I think Lyon are improving in recent months, and obviously the return of Ndombele, although he's yet to get going, I think that is a positive for them as well. They did need a replacement for Bruno Guimaraes, didn't they? So things are looking better for Lyon than they were, say, a couple of months ago, and it looks like Peter Bosz may survive now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do between now and the end of the season, and whether they can keep up a Europa League campaign with the Ligue 1. Obviously, the tie with Porto is far from over, but I think they're going to be going for that Champions League place, or at least for a Europa League place between now and then. Rennes are no pushovers though, and they've had a pretty good season as well. So I'm finding this one tough to call. But if you want a prediction from me now, I'm going to go for a Lyon win. I'm going to say 2-1.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, as you say, it is getting very, very tight in that sort of 3rd to 9th area where Lyon are. And I think I went maybe a little bit early on Peter Bosz's sacking, although I will say that if they don't finish higher than sort of 7th, I think he will probably be fired at the end of the year, given the talent they've got there. Nice goal from Paqueta. They thought it was offside initially, but was ruled onside correctly after good work from Karl Toko Ekambi on the left-hand side, who's been an excellent pickup since arriving at Lyon. Let's talk briefly about Rennes, Henry. I know you're quite a big fan of some of their talent.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Rennes. I'm a big fan of Ligue 1 in general, to be honest. I think that 3rd to 5th race at the moment is fascinating, as you pointed out, with Lyon, Rennes as well, and then Strasbourg too, which is managed by Julien Stéphan. I was writing about him the other day. He's got them motoring towards a Champions League spot, which, considering I think like 10 years ago they went bust, it's actually dropped down to like the 5th division. That's remarkable. And he took Rennes to the Champions League before, so why not? Can't he do it again? And if we do look at like Rennes' performances this season, they've certainly got a chance to be back in there. They've won their last 3 games, scoring 10 goals. But that is, to be fair, just as well, because they had some pretty big defeats since the start of December. They've lost to Lille, Nice, Monaco as well. Monaco, who look sort of back to their best, and PSG too. It's worth mentioning that Marseille, there's no guarantees they're going to win their games at the moment. They seem to be slipping up every other game at the moment. And if we look at Rennes, they're now 1 point behind 3rd place Marseille, and only 3 points behind 2nd place Nice, although I do feel like Nice are probably a shoo-in for that Champions League spot. And Rennes are in a good place right now. They've won 4 more games than at this stage last year, managed by Bruno Genesio. They scored 20 more and conceded 6 fewer, so have 8 more points. That is progress all around. Starman Martin Terrier, who sort of bounced around a few clubs, hasn't quite clicked here and there, but he's got 13 goals this season. Gaëtan Laborde, big fan of him, 11 goals, 6 assists. They've got obviously Kamaldeen Sulemana on the wing as well, another one I'm a huge fan of too. So yeah, I think, you know what, I'm going to back Rennes on this one. I just feel as if Lyon might put a lot of their eggs in that Europa League basket, because that's a huge opportunity. I think the Europa League is actually pretty wide open this term, and they'll have their next game on Thursday against Porto. So I'm backing Rennes to maybe get a bit of a shock win here. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win away to Rennes.
Okay, McCubs, you back Lyon, yeah?
Yes.
I'll go for the draw. I'll go for a sensible 1-1
Nice.
draw in this game. Yeah, excellent analysis from the both of you. Let's move on to our third game. Torino versus Inter Milan. Sunday night, 7:45 p.m. It's 11 versus 2nd. There's 26 points between them. Torino, low-key, had a pretty good season, actually. They were battling relegation over the last two. They finished 17th and 16th in the last two seasons. But this year, they're 11th. They're 12 points clear of relegation. And they're actually only 5 points behind 10th place Sassuolo, and have a game in hand as well. And it's mainly been built off that defence. They've conceded 28 goals. Only Napoli, Inter Milan and Juventus have conceded fewer. And their star defender, Bremer, the Brazilian Bremer, who is attracting a lot of interest from Inter Milan, has generally been excellent. He is a defensive sort of monster, really, for want of a better word. Yeah, for a defensive midfielder, anything above 4.5 tackles and interceptions is really good. But for a centre-back, it depends what sort of style of play you play in. But, that tends to be way lower than that. But Bremer's putting in 5, which is absolutely mental. Very dominant in the air as well. Real set-piece threat. So I think it'd be an interesting pickup for Inter. I don't think he's quite as polished as De Vrij or Skriniar or Bastoni. But if Skriniar or De Vrij, actually, it looks like, is probably the more likely to leave this summer, then I think Bremer would be an interesting pickup. So shout out to Torino. And with Andrea Bellotti having missed so many games already this year, he's missed 18. It's been Josip Brekalo, who they managed to secure last summer in a sort of surprising move, who's been their top scorer with 6. So massive credit to Torino for, after being a consistent mid-table team for years, a couple of years of dip, and they've got back to mid-table security. But McCubs, let's talk Inter Milan briefly, because their performance at Anfield, once again, and across the two legs really against Liverpool, deserves a bit of a shout out, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. I think if they just had that something a little bit extra, they would have. But they could have actually beaten Liverpool. I think. I think they were a bit fortunate at Anfield that Liverpool hit the woodwork so many times. When have we seen Salah hit the woodwork twice and not score in a game? And yeah, like the XG had it at like nearly 2 to Liverpool, 0.3 to Inter. Obviously, that goal from Lautaro is an all-time Champions League classic. But it was a great watch. And Inter, I think what was impressive about them over the two legs was that they matched Liverpool physically. Like, they matched them physically for 180 minutes. I was really impressed at just how fit that team is. They're keeping up a very tough title challenge in Serie A, and to be able to go to Anfield and really not cower to the famous European atmosphere at Anfield. It's something
Henry's
to be said.
favourite.
It's something to be said, and I think and also props to Simone Inzaghi, who looked like the calmest man in the whole stadium all night. I really enjoyed that game. In some ways, actually, it was a more enjoyable overall game than the Real Madrid PSG match. Less drama, but I think it was just such a fascinating battle to watch, and it was just frustrating that Inter didn't quite have the quality in the right moments, and Alexis Sanchez made that stupid challenge right after they were back in the game. It was just
the timing on that.
It had the makings of an all-time classic, and it didn't quite get there. But yeah, I think a game like that, I think that will only spur them on now in this title race. I can really see them going on a run now, because I think they'll feel a little bit hard done by that they couldn't quite get it done against Liverpool. They couldn't quite match them. I do fancy them for this game. Although I think props to Torino. They've been really impressive this year. I think they're the most aggressive pressers in all of Serie A. I think one of the most aggressive pressing teams in all of Europe, actually. And their manager, Ivan Juric, has been kind of compared a little bit actually to Klopp, because he's like a heavy metal fan and likes playing aggressive football, and he kind of learned the ropes working with Gasperini, actually. So he's a really interesting managerial talent, which I think everyone should keep their eye on, because I think he's probably going places higher than Torino. I think this will be a really entertaining game as a result. Two teams that play pretty interesting football. I think Inter will have have too much for them, especially with Lautaro in such good form now, right? Like, I mean, got the hat trick against Salernitana, got that goal against Liverpool. He looks really, really
big
hot
miss
at the moment.
before that though. Wow.
Big miss, and should have laid off Dumfries, because I think I was backing him to score.
Yes.
But nevertheless, he looks a lot more confident again now. So yeah, I think I'm going to go for another 3-1 actually. Yeah, 3-1 Inter.
Fair enough. I'm going to go 2-0 Inter on this one. Henry, what are you thinking?
Yeah, won't go into it too much. I think sorry, you said 2-0, Diggs?
I said 2-0, yeah.
I'll go 3-0. I'll go 3-0. Why
3-0.
not to Inter Milan? Yeah, I think they're just going to have... It's so tight. None of them can afford to slip up at the moment. I mean, I think I've got every Italian prediction wrong recently, so it's really hard to say. I mean, AC Milan, what a result that was last week for them against Napoli. You saw what it meant for them on the pitch. But yeah, I just think Inter are slightly in the driving seat of that game in hand, but that does mean the pressure's on them. So yeah, I'm going to back Inter, but like, you never know at the moment. It's so great, the title race, and even Juve could be in it if the results go their way this week.
Yeah. What was interesting, I thought, was apparently before the Napoli AC Milan game last weekend, Spalletti came out and said, like, this is your chance to, live in immortality or be forgotten forever. And Insigne after the game said, I think it turns out we're going to be forgotten, which is basically ceding, like, control or belief that they can win the title. Obviously, he might have been emotional post-game and maybe he doesn't really believe that, but I thought that was pretty extraordinary from your captain and talisman. So, yeah, worrying times for Napoli after that great win against Lazio. Failed to back it up against Milan. But yeah, we are backing Inter for this one, guys. Get your score predictions for those 3 games, by the way, and any others that you want to in the comments down below. And let's very quickly do a quick-fire question. It comes in from I'm Ganesha. Can West Ham beat Sevilla in the knockout stages? Henry, the first leg takes place yesterday as people are watching this, so we have the potential to look like idiots, but do you think West Ham have a chance over 2 legs?
It's a fascinating clash because you've got a Sevilla side that know exactly what they're doing at this stage in the competition against a West Ham side that are really riding the wave of finally being back in Europe, if that makes sense. It's not as if like West Ham are occasionally there. They've got a lot of momentum at the moment. So I think it's going to be great to see, but I do think Sevilla are going to just have a bit too much for them over the 2 legs. I really do. I can see maybe West Ham winning one of the legs, but I think maybe suffering a bit of a defeat, certainly away. But so yeah, I'm going to back Sevilla, but I really wouldn't be shocked if West Ham got through. I wouldn't be shocked if West Ham went really deep into this competition, in all honesty.
Ooh.
But at the moment, Sevilla, with all the nous, they've got Lopetegui, some sort of good additions running through their side. Got that big win recently against Betis. So yeah, I'm going to back Sevilla. But yeah, I mean, I just love Europa League this season. I think it's so great. I think it's wide open, and I think it's way more interesting than the Champions League.
There we have it. Fair enough. I mean, McCubs, I've got a £15 bet on with George Wright on this. He's backing West Ham. I'm backing Sevilla. Do you think I'm going to get my money back or get his money more?
Wow, that's quite ballsy from George Wright to go in on that, especially for backing another London club.
He loves to back the British.
Yeah, he does, to be fair. Brexit George.
At least over La Liga. He thinks La Liga is terrible.
It's true. Him and Joe won't budge on their kind of every other league is a farmers league agenda. Now I would be backing Sevilla personally. I think if West Ham were in more consistent form domestically, then I think I'd be more inclined to. I think that they're a team that really rides waves under David Moyes, but they just haven't been. They haven't been amazing, have they, since the kind of Christmas period? And that's fine because they've got a fairly thin squad. They were overperforming and overachieving before that. So it's no disrespect to them. They're still a very solid team. But I echo Henry's thoughts. I just think Sevilla, it's hard not to back them in the Europa League. And I don't think, West Ham are far from the best team that they've played in this competition over the last, 2-3 years. So yeah, I would still be putting my money on them for sure.
Yeah, definitely, especially with Jared Bowen out. I'm pretty confident about my bet, but we shall see what happened or what happens tonight. As you watch this, you will know what happens in the first leg. Guys, thank you so much for watching Continental Club for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed our discussion about Pochettino, our big match predictions, our chat about West Ham Sevilla, as usual. Henry, if they want to go watch another Football Daily video, what would you recommend?
Oh, just try to think. I was hoping you go to McCubbin first.
Anything you want.
The football pyramids. I believe
Yes.
McCubbinator and the People's Prince, Chris Hamill, are on this
Tomorrow,
Prince.
yes.
The People's Prince. Not my prince, but someone else's, I'm sure. But yeah, those two are on it. Clash of the Titans. Go check it out.
Absolutely. It did turn out to be a Clash of the Titans as well. McCubbs, anything else you'd like to push to?
I'm trying to think. Yeah, we did a interesting explained on the Bundesliga and whether the Bundesliga tax, to quote a football Twitter ism, whether that actually exists. That came out last weekend. I think people generally quite enjoyed it. So if you haven't checked it out already, go and check that one out. Very interesting video.
Nice. Peace and love, people. Have a great weekend. We'll catch you on Monday. Bye.